Okay, we're going to look at all the examples for posting to the general journal so that you guys can see how this starts looking. Okay, so these are the examples in the slideshow, but I'm going to do them one by one so that you can see how it looks when you're completing an activity. Okay, so we've got our first transaction on the 10th. So H. Shady's balance in the debtor's ledger of Bev Stores was $320. This account is long overdue. Okay, Bev decided to write it off as bad debts. Now, what I want you guys to do is after every transaction, I want you to tell me which account is debited and which account is credited. This will make it a lot easier for you to post to the journals, to post to the general ledger, and just to get an idea of your accounting equation as well. So with this one, because I've got H. Shady and he's a debtor, and then I'm writing it off as bad debts. So this bad debt word already tells me it's going to go into the general journal. So now which account is debited and which account is credited? So now I think because it's getting written off as bad debt, okay, we are decreasing his amount that he owes us by everything. So we're taking it off completely. So I'm decreasing my debtors account, which means I'm going to credit it. So debtors control. Okay, and I can just tell myself that it's H. Shady. And I'm going to debit bad debts because bad debts is a expense and it's increasing, so it's going to be debited. But as soon as you find one account that's debited or credited, then you'll know that the other account is just the opposite. All right. Then on the 12th, the owner took stock costing 500 Rand and consumables for 90 Rand for his own use. Okay, so now here I've got my debit and my credit. So I know the owner is taking stock and consumables. So remember, if the owner is taking cash, then we put it in our CPJ. Okay, if he's taking stock or consumables or stationery or anything like that, then we're going to put it into our GJ, so general journal. So now I ask myself, what is being debited and credited? So I've got my two accounts affected, or three in this case, is drawings, trading stock, and consumables. So it's drawings and trading stock and drawings and consumables. So now I ask, what is debited and what is credited? So drawings will always be debited. So drawings is debited. Okay. And then credited is my trading stock. Okay, and then for the consumable stores, I've got drawings and I've got, consumable stores. Okay. Then for the 15th, it says D Late's account of 2,400 is 2 months overdue. Bev Stores charged her interest at 16% per annum. So I know this is interest on overdue account, so then that will go in my general journal. Now with this one, it says it is 2 months overdue and it's charging an interest of 16% per annum. So per annum means per year. So we have to work this out. So if I've got, she owes us 2,400. So I need to first find out what 16% of 2,400 is. So I do my calculation and I get 384. But now that's for the whole year. So now I need to find out how much is it for just 2 months. So let me find out how much it is for 1 month so that I can times it by 2. So 384 divided by 12 is equal to 32. And then I just times that by 2 to get for 2 months, which gives me 64. So I know I'm charging her 64 in interest on 2 months overdue. So that was a little bit of a calculation. Sometimes they tell you the amount, Other times you have to work it out. So what accounts are debited and credited? So the two accounts affected is delate, so that is my debtor, so debtors control. And then the other account is interest on overdue account or interest income, depending on what the business uses. So always go check in the general ledger, is there account for interest income or is there account for interest on overdue debtors, and then you'll know which one to use. So in this case, it's going to be interest on overdue debtors. So with my debtors control, because I'm charging her interest, okay, I'm charging delate's interest. So I'm increasing the amount she owes me. So I'm going to debit debtors control. And then I'm going to credit interest on overdue debtors. Okay. Then I've got the bank informed Bev store that S. Shooter's check was not paid due to insufficient funds. So I've got an RD check. The check was for $570 and a discount of 30 Rand was allowed. Now there's two things that are happening here. First, I have to record the RD check. Then I have to cancel the discount. Okay, so with the return of RD checks, if there's a discount that needs to be cancelled, there's going to be two entries for this. Okay, for my actual check, so the RD check, remember we put it in the CPJ. So you guys did RD checks, you put it in the CPJ, and my accounts that were affected was bank because it was decreasing. I'm crediting it, and debtors control. So this goes in your CPJ as normal. Now the only difference is there's a discount that needs to be cancelled. So if there was no discount here, this is the only entry you would be making, but because there's a discount we need to cancel, we have to make that entry as well. So what accounts are affected? First is debtors control, because I have to increase his account again because he doesn't have that discount anymore. So I need to increase debtors control. So debit debtors control. And then the other account that's affected is discount allowed. And then this goes in the general journal. So please take note, with an RD check, please don't forget that there is still an entry in the CPJ and then an entry in the general journal. So there's two entries that have to be made here. So one for the check and one for the discount. Okay, then stationery, which was bought from Ream Stationers for 140, was posted from the CJ to the consumable stores count. The error must be corrected. Okay, so basically what happened is we bought stationery and the bookkeeper incorrectly posted it to the consumable stores account. So now what we need to do is we need to decrease our consumable stores because we don't have those consumable stores. There was an error. So we need to decrease our consumable stores account, which is credit. So credit consumable, okay, just consumables. And then I need to increase my stationery account because I didn't account for that stationery. So I need to increase my stationery account like I would have the first time that I bought it, but we didn't record it. So stationery. All right. Then the 29th, goods sold on credit to GGAF for 440 was incorrectly posted to the account of GGAFA in data's ledger. The error must be corrected. So obviously here there's an E on this data, so that's why the bookkeeper got confused. So because we charge GGAF or GGAFA, we have to decrease his account because he doesn't owe us that money. We incorrectly charged it to his account. So what we need to do is decrease his account, which means we're going to credit his account. And then we need to charge G Gaff because he was the one that bought the goods on credit. So G Gaff. All right, then equipment costing $650, purchase from Coolit Services, was erroneously entered in the creditor's journal as 560 Rand. So they just swapped the 6 and the 5 around and posted as such. So we need to first determine what accounts are affected. So it's equipment and my creditor's control, because instead of paying 650, I only paid 560. So how much do I need to increase the amount that I owe now? So I take 650 minus 560 and I get 90 Rand. So I just need to make up this difference of 90 Rand. So I need to increase my equipment by 90 Rand because I only have it as 560. So debit equipment. And I need to credit creditor's control, because I need to increase the amount that I owe to them, because right now I only owe 560. So I need to increase it by 90 to say that I owe them 650. So in brackets I can just say Coolit Services so I know who it is. Okay, so now that we've done this, it makes it a lot easier for us to post into the general journal. And I'll show you guys how. So let's take each transaction and post it to the general journal. So my first one, I said I was going to debit bad debts and credit debtors control. So first with my journal voucher, it doesn't state what my journal voucher is, so I automatically just start with 01. The day is the 10th. Now the first line is where your debit entry goes. So this will be bad debts, like we said. Then my account that's credited was debtors control H Shady. So in the second line, because your second line states what your credit account is, you're going to put H Shady. All right. Then you need to explain what happened. So here we wrote this account off as bad debts. So we say account written off as bad debts, and then let's fill in our amount. So we know that this is bad debts. The first line is always debited, so it will be 320 on the debit column. Then H Shady is credited by 320. Now because H Shady is a debtors control, we also need to put it in our debtors control column in the same credit column. Okay. After every single general journal entry, you have to underline it so that people can see that that is one entry. Okay, then the second one. We've got the owner took stock costing 500 and consumables for 90 for his own use. Now because this happened on the same day, we can put it under the same entry. So debited in both instances was drawings. Okay, then I indented and I write trading stock. And my other account that was affected was consumables. Oops, I forgot the day and the journal entry. So, and the 12th. Okay, and then my explanation is owner took stock and consumables for own use. Okay, anything to that regard. So now let's put in our amounts. So drawings, we had trading stock and consumables, so we have to add them. So it's 500 plus 90. So I'm going to debit 590 to drawings, and I'm going to credit trading stock by 500, and consumables by 90. Okay, and then you always have to underline the transaction. Okay, you don't have to underline it with a color, I just like how it looks. Okay, then the 15th. We said we're going to debit debtors control and credit interest on overdue debtors. So this was our debtor that was overdue on their account, and we charged 16% per annum. So now our journal voucher will be 03 because we're going in order on the 15th. My debit is debtors control, so I check who my debtor was, and it was D late. Then my credit account is interest on overdue debtors. And my reason for this is interest charged on overdue account at 16% per annum. Okay, so then I do my amount. So remember, we worked it out that it was going to be 64 Rand. So here I've got 64 Rand with D late, and since D late is a debtor, I also have to put it in the debtors control column. Then interest on overdue debtors goes credit 64 Rand. Then I underline it because I am done. Okay. Next one, 25th, we had our RD check and we had to cancel the discount. So remember, with the RD check, we've got an entry in the CPJ. So all we need to do is the entry in the general journal. So you would have had your CPJ, which you would have posted to, but we are just looking at our general journal in this example. So our voucher will be 04 on the 25th, and my debit account will be debtors control, and my credit account will be discount allowed. Then my explanation will be discount cancelled on RD check. So discount on RD check. Okay, and that amount was for 30 Rand. So, oh, I forgot. Actually, this isn't debtors control. I need to put my debtor there. So that is S Shooter. Okay, because he's a debtor, it has to go in the debtors control account for 30 Rand. Discount allowed is credited by 30 Rand, and I'm done. So I put a line underneath. Right, then the 28th, I had debit stationery and credit consumable stores. So this is when I had those accounts that were switched around, and I need to correct the error. So my journal voucher will be 05. My day will be the 28th. My debit account is stationery. And my credit account will be consumables. And all you say for these corrections of error is just correction of error. Okay, and then I accidentally posted 140 Rand to consumable stores. So for stationery, I need to debit 140 Rand, and for consumables, I need to decrease that account by 140 Rand as well. And then I underline. Okay, nearly there. Then 29th, we had the two datas that were confused. So on my journal voucher will be 06, it will be the 29th, and my debit account will be GGAF, and my credit account will be GGAFE, and my reason for this will just be correction of error. Okay, and then I said it was, we charged GAFE for 40 Rand, so we need to decrease GAFE's account and increase GAF's account by 440. Now, because GGAF and GGAFE are datas, I need to put this in the datas control column as well. So 440 and 440. Okay, then I underline. Okay, last one. Equipment costing 650 purchased from Coolit Services. So this is when we made an error in the amount. So we still owe them 90 Rand. So for journal voucher 7 on the 31st, I said I was going to debit equipment and credit creditors control. And because this was an error, my reason will just be correction. This isn't creditors control. I need to put my creditor down. So it will be Coolit Services. So correction of error. Okay, and this was for 90 Rand because we still owe them 90 Rand. Now, because Coolit Services is a creditor, it needs to go in the creditors column, and because we credited this side, we need to credit this side. All right, and then we underline. Now, those are all my transactions, so I need to total all my columns. Now, the only... okay, I underlined it too much. Let us total our columns here. Okay, so for data's control in our debit column, we're going to add all these up, and when we add all these up, we get 534 Rand. And in our credit, if we add these up, we will get 760 Rand. Then in our creditors debit column of our creditors control, we've got nothing, and in our credit column in our creditors control, we've got 90 Rand. Okay, now we're going to use these entries because remember, you go from your journals to your ledgers. So we're going to use these entries from our journal to post it into the ledgers. Now remember, you'll have different transactions going to different journals. We are just focusing on the general journal. Okay, so let us take our first entries. Now, the easiest thing for me to do, you guys can do it differently, is I like to take these columns first. So the debtors control column, the creditors control column, and then post them into the general ledger, and then I'll take the other transactions. Because these are columns, they become sundry accounts, because we're not going to do each one into the T account. We're going to just take the whole bunch and post it to the debtors control T account. So we're going to go to my debtors control T account. Okay, so here's my debtors control T account, and or let's put it like that. My debtors control T account, and I first take my debit entry, so that was a total of 534. So on the debit side of my debtors control, I've got the 31st, so the end of the month, because it's got its own column, sundry accounts, and this was a value of 534 from the GJ. So that's my debit column, and that's why it went on my debit side. Now I take my credit column, and my total was 760. So on the credit side of my debtors control, I'll have 2010 May, the 31st, sundry accounts from the general journal, and that amount was 760. So 760. Now I do my creditors control column. So the only entry I had was on the credit side, so I go to creditors control. On the credit side, 31st, sundry accounts, from the general journal, and that amount was 90 Rand. So now that I've done my columns, now I can do each entry as is. Okay, so the first entry is bad debts and our debtors control. So now I've already done my debtors control, so I'll only need to go debit bad debts. So I go to bad debts, which is here on the debit side, because I've told myself I'm going to debit it. So this makes it a little bit easier for you. This happened on the 10th. So 10th, my contra account, so I'm in bad debts, so my contra account is debtors control, because that's the other account that I was dealing with. So debtors control from the GJ, and that was 320. And then I've already done my debtors control account, so I don't need to do this one. Then I've got drawings, trading stock, and consumables. So I take my debit entry first, so it was drawings, so I go to drawings on the debit side. On the 12th, my contra account will be trading stock and consumables. Now, because I can't write trading stock and consumables, I have to do each one separately. So trading stock, which was 500 Rand, and then consumables, which was 90 Rand. Okay, now I have to go to my trading stock and consumables and put it on the credit side. So let's go to my trading stock. So on the credit side, because I've told myself I'm going to credit it, it's going to be 2010 May. On the 12th, the other account affected was drawings. So now do you see I've got on the debit side here in drawings and on the credit side here in trading stock. So my double entry rule has been fulfilled. So this was 500 Rand. Now I go to consumable stores, and on the credit side, so 2010 May the 1st, drawings, general journal of 90 Rand. Okay, then for my next one, I've got my debtor delate, and then it was interest on overdue debtors. So I've already done debtors control, so all I need to do